revisions. What are they? Why do we need them? And how do we make them better? As you all may be aware of, if you make music, you're going to come across revisions one point in your career. And the way that we go about doing these revisions really justifies the whole music production process as a whole. Because if you're doing revisions with an engineer who just doesn't hear you out and is giving you limitations, then that can be a challenge. But if you're an engineer and you're working with an artist who has a billion revisions, then that could be a challenge. So this whole episode is going to be all about how to get, better revisions for your music. Okay, so let's just kick things off, get straight started. Welcome back to the Audio Alchemy Podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back.
We in this bitch. Yes, sir, skis. All right.
My boy's on a sick one. He's on a sick one.
Let's just define a revision.
Exactly.
For those who may not. I mean, you guys already know, but if you're recording a song and you're sending your song to get mixed, or if you mix a song and you're sending your song to get mastered, usually after you send it out to make your music sound better, you're going to come across revisions. So that's what revisions are.
Okay, well, let's start here. Revisions. What is a revision?
Dude, what the fuck are you saying? You're faded, bro. What the fuck? Dude, I literally just explained it and you're just like...
The act of revising.
Dude, nah, this is gone, bro. You're fucking gone. I'm going to leave that in there.
Cheers, everybody.
Oh,
cheers,
shit. I'm going to leave that in there because that was fucking hilarious. What the fuck was that, bro? I was explaining it and you're like, wait, what the fuck? Okay, hold on. That's too fucking funny, bro. That's just going to stay in
bro,
there.
It's just how it is. Revisions.
All right, shut the fuck out. You're a fucking high guy. All right, well, so now that we know what revisions are, how do we make them better, or why is this even something to discuss? So usually, let's say if you recorded a song yourself, or you're a recording engineer and you want to send your stuff to a mixing engineer to get mixed or whatever the fuck, and you really want your song to get better, obviously you're saying to get better, but what if the result that you get isn't exactly what you were imagining in your head? Obviously, you're going to have some sort of input as to how you want it to sound.
Exactly.
So the same thing applies for when you're mixing, you're sending it out to mastering. Again, revisions. So the whole reason why I want to get into this is just how we can make the revision process better for both engineer and artist. I feel like there's a lot of debate to be said here. So whatever you guys think about any of the stuff we say in this podcast, feel free to comment down in the comments below. Maybe just go back and forth on what you think about revisions. But
let's just start here. You know what I mean? I feel like with revisions, right? When it comes to revisions, and you're talking about trying to make the process easier, okay? I feel like when it comes to revisions, most people are very, very vague in when it comes to saying what specifically they want to be fixed in the mix, you know? Everybody's just so quick to be like, oh yeah, something doesn't sound right here, this is too loud, or like, you know? People are very, very vague with certain things. Something just doesn't sound right, or like, you know, I can't tell what's wrong. You know what I mean?
And I'm an engineer, but to the artist's defense though, it's like that's like a very technical way to look at it. You get what I'm saying? Because we're technical, and we as engineers, we already know exactly how it is, but we can't expect the artist to be as technical as well. So that's why this is a great topic for discussion.
100%.
Because that's another part of the job too. As an engineer, it's like, yeah, it is vague and it is frustrating, but then you really can't expect every single artist to give you a detailed technical explanation as to what they want, because realistically speaking, if they did know what they want, then they would just fucking do it themselves.
Right, exactly.
You know, so it plays both ways, but again, that's why this is gonna be. I mean, to me, I'm already excited.
This one's gonna be good.
Yeah, so let's just like backtrack a little bit. So that's like a little bit of a broader scale that we'll get into. But as far as revisions go, when you first start working with an engineer, I think it's best that you ask at least the engineer to kind of see what their revision terms are, because no two engineers are the same. Like this guy could say no revisions, I could say okay, I'll give you a few.
Exactly.
It just depends on the engineer that you're working with, and there's good reason for both. After you get your song and you're not necessarily content with how it sounds, then you have to go back into the revisions. So that's why before you even work with an engineer, you have to kind of understand how many revisions they're providing, because some engineers, they really won't provide any revisions.
Yeah, that's common.
And maybe as an artist, you know, you will probably kind of feel like, oh, like fuck, like this isn't cool, you know. It's like you want to kind of talk about it, you want your song to build, and you want to have like leg room to grow and just take your idea into other things. But the reason why engineers have a revision limit is because at the same time too, sometimes with certain artists it could just be a never ending cycle, which that could happen too. But then that has more to say about the song versus the mix, because if you're, let's say, like 50 plus revisions in, me personally, I don't think that that's a mixing problem. I think that's a production problem within the song, whether it's your vocal production or your production in general. So everybody has a different philosophy on this and how they want to go about it. So that's why before you even get into working with a specific engineer, maybe it's good to inform yourself on the terms that they have as far as revisions go.
Yeah, for sure. When it comes to revisions, it really, really varies. It could be something so small where it's like, oh, just this little tiny thing is off, or they could hit you with a million things at once. And then after you do those million things, they could hit you with a million other things.
Yeah.
Then a million other things.
And that's,
you know what I'm saying? And that's kind of goes back to what you were saying about that might not necessarily be like a problem with the actual mix. It might just be a problem with the guy's ears, the artist's ears, and his specific taste on the situation. You know,
my boy Mike's keeping it raw, but that's what they want. They don't want that filtered bullshit that all these other motherfucking engineers providing.
No fake shit.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, you were saying, oh, they could hit you with a million things or one thing or whatever. So now I want to go into what counts for a revision and what doesn't count for a revision.
Okay, interesting.
And the reason why I say this is because if you mix your song to your fullest potential and your fullest ability,
right,
and then
as
you
an
send
engineer.
it, and then you send it out, and then the artist is like, okay, yeah, I really like it. Just maybe turn up the bass a little bit, or I want my voice to sound a little bit warm or whatever, or like this and this and that. I mean, all that's cool too. Fuck it, you get what I'm saying?
It's
so
common.
that's a fair revision,
Right.
But if, let's say, the artist, because this will happen too. Let's say the artist wants to start like, oh, can you rearrange this synth and put it here, or could I throw in a different synth?
That's kind of more a production thing at
that's
that
all
point.
production.
You know
and
what I
then
mean?
Same thing too with
Yeah.
with recutting vocals. So let's say you
Yeah,
record
for
a
sure.
full song already,
Yeah.
and you mix the song, and then after you mix the song, they're like, you know what? I kind of didn't like how I did my vocals. Is there any way that I could just re-record my vocals and we just throw it in? Sorry, but that's a whole other different. Like I have to do a completely different vocal chain.
100%.
For that, the engineer has to do a completely different vocal chain. So that's why I wanted to go into what is a revision and what's not a revision. Usually, what I've seen is like, as far as if you're trying to rearrange the instrumentation of your song, or if you're trying to redo the vocals of your song, some engineers, again, I'm just saying examples here. I'm just gonna list all examples in this video, but some engineers, they'll be like, okay, so I'm just gonna do like a recutting fee for the vocals, or a fee for like rearranging the instruments or whatever, blah blah blah, to remix that into that. And some engineers, they'll just completely charge you for a brand new song, like a full rate for the mix, because that's, to be honest, it is like a completely different mix at that point.
And when it comes to arrangement and certain things like that, you know, it becomes a thing where it's like, if you're kind of rearranging the song, you know what I'm saying, there's possible like royalties and publishing entitlement involved in that sort of situation too, you know what I mean? Because that really all comes down to production at the end of the day. Arrangement is production.
Exactly. And then if you ask your engineer to start rearranging stuff and doing a little bit more, this is a little side note, but for all the engineers out there, one tip that I would say is, within your services, always tell the artist what's included and what's not included. Because when you're working with a specific artist, sometimes certain artists, they want that production side and they expect production. So they say, hey, do you think you could add like an instrument or do this or this and this and that? But that's not included within the rate. Like if you have the ability to produce, then okay, like say that this is a separate rate aside from mixing if you want to do that, but then it's going to be the rate plus the royalties, or however you want to go about it.
Yeah, whatever the terms of service are, you know, that'll all be figured out.
Yeah, but always say what's included and what's not included whenever you're working with new clients. It's just basically setting expectations so that way you have a better communication as an artist with your engineer and as an engineer with your artist, because we don't want that friction within the music creation process, because then if we don't resolve that friction, what happens is, if you don't get the revisions right, then guess what? There's going to be tension, resentment, and both parties are going to be unhappy at the end of the day.
It's just overall bad business, you know?
Yes, and that's one thing that we want to avoid, which is why we're talking about revisions within this whole podcast.
Because at the end of the day, you know, when you're receiving a song, you know, you want it to be something that you're satisfied with, you know? So it's like, and ultimately, like, you could receive a song and, you know, not thankfully, to be honest, every
Yeah.
mix I've received from this guy, it's like, it's never one revision.
Cha-chow.
But I know a lot of engineers where they'll send out a mix and then their client will hit them with, yo, I need this done, this done, this done, this done, you know? So, but at the end of the day, it's all just kind of getting to that end result of, you know, being satisfied with your song.
Yeah, so how do we get there?
Exactly.
So the next thing I want to transition this into is, what do you need to have before you even get your song mixed? Not just like, okay, all my files and all that, but also
Yeah.
mentally, you need to have that clarity of like, okay, yes, I like how this sounds. Going back to the example with the vocals, saying, okay, I didn't really like how my vocals came out, blah, blah, blah. You should really be 100% on that unless you want to pay an additional fee for that. You know what I'm saying? So real quick, check out our last episode. It was about budgeting. But if you don't
Yeah.
want to put more into your budget as far as your production goes for your songs, then yes, just make sure that it's exactly how you want it. The production is right. The vocals are right. Make sure everything is right. And then again, yes, just make sure you have all your files so that way whenever you send your files to get mixed from your engineer, you have everything that you need. That's another reason too why having a recording engineer is important, because whenever you're recording your songs, if you're recording songs by yourself, usually you don't have that external output to kind of understand what's working or what's not. And
Yeah.
and that's part of the mixing engineer's job. When you're really doing remote work, one thing that I've noticed is a lot of people, they record in very different situations.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah, when they're like the way that even they layer their stuff, the rooms, the gear,
Usually
recording
something is a
etiquette.
little off. Like when you receive all the files, you put it all together in a Pro Tools session and you look at it, usually something's like, this is pretty interesting. I'm going to have to figure out how I can make this work.
Yeah,
You know, because people kind of just, when they're not a specific recording engineer themselves, artists tend to just kind of like do things to like either cover up certain things, or they just do things because they think it sounds good and they don't necessarily like have a second ear on it right off the bat, you know?
Yeah, and then that's why like a recording engineer is important. But if you're comfortable and if you like how you record and all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and you want to get your
Fuck it.
shit mixed,
Fuck it.
yeah, fuck it. But again, too, this is what we're gonna get into a little bit, is also the demoitis side of
That's
revisions and all.
that's a real illness.
Yeah,
That's a disease.
Yeah.
Demoitis. Artists, tell me, do you have demoitis?
This fucking guy.
Do you?
Look at him. That's right. That's right. But if you want to enhance your recordings, don't forget to check out the Pro Tools recording course made by yours truly, Mr. Goop Goopster.
How do you think I opened a studio?
Exactly. I taught this guy. You know what I'm saying? If that's not valid enough, I've taught many other people as well.
Exactly.
And I can teach you. So just check that out.
All right, everybody. Serious topic. Demoitis. What is demoitis? Well, demoitis is basically when you go to the studio and you are working with a recording engineer and you create a song, you get a rough mix. You listen to that rough mix a million times and you get very, very, very attached to how it sounds.
Yep.
When you receive a mix from your mixing engineer, after you send out your files, you send out everything, you get it done.
Mix.
A new mix.
Yeah.
Typically what happens is a lot of the times most artists get very attached to how the rough mix sounds, where they're so attached to it and they hear a completely polished song and they're like, this shit sounds off as fuck to me. Like, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But it could be a great mix. It could be one of the greatest mixes of all time. But they're just so attached to that rough where it's like they don't really have the open mind and the open perception of like, okay, my song is at a whole new level right now, you know?
Yes, so as an engineer too, it's like, this is like for real mixing engineers. How do you overcome the demoitis?
Yeah, and
You get what I'm saying?
And in words of even quote for quote Jason Joshua, you know, even he says always stay true to the rough, but also he says fuck your rough.
Yeah, it's both ways. But when it comes to mixing too, just straight mixing or even mastering or whatever, I think it's important for the engineer to understand the artist's language. So
Yeah,
if
100%.
yeah,
Hell
so if the artist says like, oh, I want my vocals to sound, again, I'm gonna bring this back, but if the artist says I want my vocals to sound warm and a little bit punchy and this and this and this and that, I think as an artist, that's why providing reference tracks is always like a super priceless tool, not to replicate the reference track.
But to really give a goal to aim for, you know what I mean?
Yeah, a goal to aim, and also understand the artist's terminology as to how the artist explains. Because again, the artist isn't very technical. The engineers are the more technical ones. We're the technical ones, and the artists are the more creative, expressive ones.
Exactly.
Okay, so if
you've seen the skits,
yeah,
you've seen the skits,
exactly.
You know what I mean? Most people who are like, can you put this type of effect? Can you do this? They don't even know half the time. We're the technical ones on our end. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So if an artist says, I want my vocals a little bit warm and punchy, as an engineer, for you to get like a better quality mix for the artist, kind of say, okay, yeah, I could do that for sure. Do you have some examples of what warm and punchy vocals sound like to you? So that way that they can send it to you, and as an engineer, because obviously we know as engineers what the fuck is going on. We could hear if a vocal is super dynamic, if the drums are transient, this, that. Like we can get real deep into the fucking nitty gritty of that. You know what I'm saying? That's easy. That's easy as fuck.
Yeah, exactly. Just by listening.
Yeah,
you know?
but when you're dealing with artists don't no. I feel like certain artists, yeah, they speak the same language, but I'm gonna just say it like this: no two artists speak the same language.
Right.
And when one artist says warm vocals and another one says warm vocals, that can mean two separate things. So that's why it's very important to ask for a reference, saying, okay, you want some warm vocals? Can you show me an example of warm vocals that you like, so I can kind of replicate it? Because then that's gonna minimize the friction for your revisions. That's going to get your mix closer to what the artist wants to their vision.
Exactly.
So it doesn't have to be just vocals. It could be drums, the synth, the melodies, the balance of the vocals, up, down, whatever it is, the bass, whatever the fuck it is. Just make sure that you can kind of talk to the artist and really understand their language, so that way, as an engineer, with your technical expertise, you can recreate exactly what it is that they need. Some artists, bro, they'll say like, oh, I want a lot of compression, and then you give them too much compression, and then they're like, this sounds weird, I don't want. And it's like, because realistically speaking, bro, like, I don't expect an artist to understand what the fuck compression is. That's a super nuanced, detailed thing that takes a lot of time to learn, even for engineers.
People just see a compressor and they hear engineers using compressors and they're like, oh yeah, this compressor is cool. Like, I use this in the studio, or I see, oh, this engineer using this compressor. This one's good. You know what I mean? But like, when it comes to even compression, that's a whole other topic. We'll have a whole other video for that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But compression is literally a whole other thing in itself. You know what I mean? Like, most artists typically don't know what they're talking about. When, you know, it's funny. Like, I've had an artist be in the studio with me before, right? And their vocals sounded crazy boxy, bro. Crazy boxy, right? Like crazy, bro. So I'm cutting out a little bit of that 250, 350 area, right? I'm cutting a little bit of that 350 out, and then he tells me, he's like, oh, yeah, like, I feel like the vocal needs a little bit more low end. I'm like, bro, that shit don't need no more low end. No more low end. It's going to make it sound terrible, bro, if you put any more low end. Please don't put any more low end in. Trust me. Take my word for this.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Most artists just, they hear a term once and they think that they kind of know what they're doing. Like,
yeah,
like, to be honest,
and that's very interesting. That's very interesting, and that's also a thing to discuss within itself. It's like with certain revisions, like, you want to be like, okay, bet I'm gonna I'll do this. If you have like a simple list where they're like, turn this up, turn this down, do this, do that. Okay, cool. But then
makes
also
it easy at that point, right?
Yeah, that makes it easy. But when you get a revision like that, like, can you add more low end? And when it's doing something that you don't agree with within the mix,
that's
a
little difficult. You know,
but as an engineer, this is like, if you guys are artists and you're watching this, and you're getting the little engineer psychological secrets.
Yeah.
But I'm speaking to the engineers here. So as an engineer, if you just give them okay, like, they say, oh, I want this up, I want this down. If you agree with like the easy ones where you're like, okay, yeah, I can do this or whatever, then that means that you could fight a little bit more with the other revisions that they have that just don't make sense to you. So think of it like, it's literally like it's a psychological thing. So imagine if I was mixing for you, and you were like, can you turn up the drums? Can you make the vocals a little bit louder? Can you make the 808 hit harder? Because every time I'm making this bullshit, the 808s, make them hit.
Hell yeah,
Well,
'cause
whatever. Okay,
that's a whole other
pause.
topic.
Yeah, but as an engineer, the psychological aspect of it when you're working with an artist, if you can give them the easy ones, okay, give them the easy ones. But like with the example that he said with the low end,
Low end.
if that's something that you disagree with, it's like at least you gave them all these other ones, so that way when it comes to a specific one that you don't agree with, it's a little bit like you have more room for debate, because you have to think of it in terms of this. Like, let's say like you're a mixing engineer and you don't give any revisions or whatever, and you're just set to one fucking thing, and an artist is saying, hey, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do that, and the engineer isn't doing it for you, then it's just going to feel like more bullshit. And then as an artist, you're going to be like, okay, I feel like I'm not being heard. But if you're an engineer who takes the artist's like considerations into account, and then for like the ones where they're just saying some crazy wild out of pocket shit like from this over here and shit, then that's where you have a little bit more room for debate as far as what to go. And then I want to transition that into just trusting your engineer, because that's a big one too. So whenever you get your song mixed with an engineer, you're going to that engineer for their specific taste. Maybe not necessarily their taste, maybe you've just seen that they do a bunch of mixes for big artists. Well, again, that is taste. Or maybe you're going to them for like their service because you heard that they had really good service, like, oh yeah, this guy's really cool, like I fuck with him, he always makes my songs sound crazy, this that. So you're gonna go to your engineers for different things.
It's funny because, all right, not even gonna lie, no shade, but I'm gonna fucking say it on this shit because I'm gonna fucking say it.
Let's do
so
it.
like I've literally had people hit me with, oh yeah, like bro, what's it called? Like we're trying to book some time, this. All right, bet. Here's my rate, right?
Yeah.
And then they hit me with, oh well, bro, I could book this studio with a tube tech, this 12-hour session for 200. I'm like, I don't give a fuck about none of that shit.
Yeah,
you
me
go to
neither.
my studio or you book with me for a specific reason, and that's because of
Exactly.
the service that we provide.
Exactly.
Everybody has a different service. Everybody has different taste, sonically, tonally, everything. Everybody has a different taste as an engineer, and everybody works differently, right? But at the end of the day, you work with a specific person because of the service that they provide and because of the satisfaction and the value that they provide to you. And if they have a specific sort of value, roll with it, stick with it. Don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, as a fucking engineer, know your value. If you're doing your shit, don't let people fucking try to lowball you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We work hard. Our fucking knowledge and our skills that we have worked and put in all this time to develop is more than motherfucking people trying to
Real.
show you, throw you 25 an hour for a session. That shit ain't
Real.
worth it. Know your fucking worth. Because at the
Real.
end of the day, you know what I'm saying? If anyone could do it, they would, and they can't.
Oh my
Sip
goodness!
a little
Hold
bit
on,
of this Dracula juice.
I'm gonna have to give Mikey a round of applause for that, because I know he's speaking to countless engineers out there. My boy said it with his
100%.
chest. My boy said it with his
100%,
chest.
bro.
Yeah, that shit was
Like, nah,
yeah, that shit
fuck
fire.
all that bullshit, bro. You know your worth. You know what you provide, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Carry yourself high.
Legendary. That was legendary. Hey, I told this fool come prepared for the podcast, and he came prepared. Yeah, I fuck with it. But yeah, again, so you.
Look at that.
I had to bring it. Whoa.
Sheesh. Cheers, everybody,
Yeah,
to that
cheers.
one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, but so it goes back to trust, right?
Trust.
It goes back to trust, and but obviously, when you're working with a new engineer, it's probably going to be a little bit more difficult for you to even trust them. And as a new engineer yourself, if you're engineering, you have to gain that trust from the artist. But if you do have that trust, usually this is what I like to tell artists, because I'm an engineer. So when I'm engineering for people, personally, this is just me personally. I don't know how anybody else feels, but I will say there's two types of people, okay? There's the one type of person who is or let's frame it like this. There's two types of engineers. There's the engineer.
Tell me.
Yeah, there's the engineer. There's the engineer that just like is like, okay, yeah, like I don't care. I'll give you 1 billion revisions if you want. I don't fucking care. Yeah, let's do it. And okay, that's cool. Fuck it, whatever. Maybe if you're an artist and you want that, go get that. Go ahead. That's why in the beginning I said figure out the revision terms off bat to see if that's what you need or if that's what you don't need. Because again, it's like before you even work with anybody, you got to see if it's the right fit. But that's a side note. And then the second type of engineer, at least for me personally, and I know there's other engineers out there, it's the engineers that have their own creative output for what they want the song to be. Okay, so I know there's a lot of engineers out there who they have their own preference. And this is the thing too. A lot of people say that we're in the customer service business because engineering for artists is customer service.
Right,
and they
of
always
course.
say the customer is always right. And then if you're working with like big label clients or specific clients or this and this and this and that.
The customers for sure always right in that situation.
Yeah.
A&R's, label
Yeah.
management, woo, woo, woo.
Yeah, it's all ooh, crazy, all the big and bad labels, but I don't give a fuck you labels, fuck the labels,
yeah,
bro.
we don't care
I've been
about none of that
self-independent,
shit.
bro. They never reach out to me, nothing. Fuck the label.
We don't care about none of that
I don't give a
shit.
fuck. But realistically speaking, other people have their own ways of going about it. Where it's like, if you're an engineer and you think something should sound a certain way, usually what I like to tell people or artists, usually when I'm working with artists or producers, is, okay, look, this is a list of my work. I have my portfolio right here. This is a list of my work, and guess what? Usually, if you want the best results, a lot of people that I work with, I give input on the song, and I give input on what's gonna come out.
Yeah.
And you want them to have that like right off bat again when you're working with an artist from the get go. I think it should be very important that you're clear and you communicate that with the artist. And then if the artist goes back to you and says something like, oh, well, I don't really care, I just kind of want you to do this for me, this and this and this and that, then you can be like, okay, that's fine. That's fine. Because as an engineer too, it's like if you really care about something and you want to kind of direct it and guide it, which is something that I love to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like I create the best music that way with all the artists that I work with.
When
I
you
can
push
really,
direction.
Yeah, when I can really direct and guide
Yeah.
the sound of the song, then you achieve X results.
100%.
But-
100%. When the artist puts that trust in you as an engineer and you're allowed to direct them in a specific way, you know what I mean? That's how it works. That's how the magic is made.
Yeah, but again, there's certain people who are out there where they're like, oh, the artist is always right, I'm gonna just do this and this and this and that. But
Yeah.
then guess what? You get that fucking artist.
Fuck it.
Add 1,000 more low end. And then you're just like, bro, what the fuck, bro? Like, nah.
Put low. All right, what frequency you want me to add back, bro? Tell me.
Yeah, tell me please. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, exactly. So
But then-
that's why I think it's honestly bullshit. I feel like I'm gonna keep it real G100, say with my chest.
Say
too.
it, say
There's
it.
a lot of engineers out there that are just pussies. Maybe I'm being too hard and speaking to artists, and certain artists are gonna find this as a turnoff for them or whatever. Okay, guess what? Then we're not a right fit. That goes back to, and no hard feelings, but that goes
No
back to
hard
the
feelings.
that goes back to the conversation of when you're booking an engineer, is this going to be a right fit or not? Okay, so for
Cost to be the boss, so work with a boss.
exactly, but whatever that means, but
Whatever that means.
whatever the fuck that means. Shout out Future. But I mean, yeah, and it's always different too. You know, when you're working with like big label artists or small label artists, and obviously you gotta have your say so or whatever. But I'm only speaking for myself. I find the most like fulfillment within my career when I could actually put my name behind something that I've actually kind of like contributed to, and I had a
Hell
say
yeah.
so within myself. I don't find myself being comfortable with taking credibility for something that like the artist kind of fully 100% guided, because then it's like I didn't even necessarily do what my vision was. They just kind of told me what to do, and it was worked with them. But then
Interesting. Interesting.
It's,
But I get it. I
interesting.
get it.
It's interesting, but then it goes to like the artist is always right or whatever
to
the
each
case
his own,
may be.
you know?
Yeah, exactly. To each their own. But that's why this is a great debate for revisions. You know, it's like
Yeah.
what's right or what's wrong, or how are we gonna do it? Everybody does it different. You may want to give the artist 1,000 revisions. You may want to get the song, nail it right. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I just want to get it perfect. Yeah, this and this and this and that. But it's funny. I saw a meme online. It said I forget what it was. Like exactly. No. Like verbatim. I remember what it is, but verbatim.
Yeah.
But it said like the output of a perfectionist, and then it showed, and it was literally nothing.
Okay.
It was nothing.
Oh yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So-
Yeah, and that's funny because I was literally thinking in my head, what is perfect? You know what I mean? Like,
Bro, that's
at the end of the day, you know what is perfect? Like, just create and do shit that sounds good. Like, do shit that sounds good. Like, you know, just use your ears at the end of the day. Like, if something is off, something's probably off. Just do what sounds fucking good. And it's funny because I was thinking about this, but with revisions, right? Let's just say you're somebody like our good friend, Mr. David Nossi.
Mr. David Nossi.
Shout out to Mixbox TV.
Make sure you're tuning
Make sure you
in and
subscribe to Mixbox TV. So
Yep.
we
boy.
yeah, so I just opened up a studio, funny enough, with Mixbox
Mr.
TV.
David Nossi, yeah,
We're going to
the
be
new
official
bunker, yeah.
the new bunker. We're going to be officially open up at the beginning of this following month, so tune
November?
in. Yeah, exactly.
November 1st, 2023.
Tune in,
because
tap in.
Somebody's going to watch this
commercial.
a billion years from now.
Exactly. But point being is, let's just say you're somebody like Mr. David, Mr. Mixbox, right? So for example, I feel like when it comes to mixing and having mixes with revisions and all of this stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, on a serious note, the way that David mixes, he mixes all with outboard gear. He has
that's a good one.
He has a
Yeah.
million
Yeah.
units.
Yeah,
He
I
has
can
a-
understand
he
that
ha-
now,
he
yeah.
has a lot of gear, right? So let's just say he has a Pro Tools session. He's mixing a song, okay? And he sends the first mixed version to a client. Everything, the way that his gear is specifically dialed in,
He has to leave it sitting
he has to
there.
leave it sitting there. Everything is there the way it is in that mix. If he has other work that he has to attend to,
You
he
can't
can't
even
even
do
attend
it.
to that
Yeah.
until he gets that mix pass.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's where it comes into play where some engineers don't even provide revisions like David. You know what I'm saying? Unless you're paying
Exactly.
top dollar for it. Because at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? Time is money. People have different work ethics. Some people mix entirely outside of the box with outboard gear, like my friend David. And if you do stuff like that, there's very little room for time and revisions and certain things like that, because it becomes very inconvenient that at that point as an engineer.
Yeah, that's a really good one too. So it's also dependent really on the type of gear that your
Yeah, are
your
you do you
engineer
mix in the
uses.
box? Do you use outboard gear for your mixes? You know what I'm saying? And to most people, I'm sure who are tuning in, like most people mix just entirely in the box. You know, that's just
Yeah.
kind of how it is with the newer sounding
Nowadays,
music
yeah.
nowadays, you know? And that's totally fine. Don't get me wrong, that's totally fine. You can make certain things sound great, you know what I'm saying, entirely in the box, like my friend, like myself.
Yeah.
We do it, you
Yeah.
know? But everybody has a different workflow, everybody has a different process.
So that's
you
why
know?
certain people have different terms. Certain engineers
Exactly.
have different terms within their mixes.
Exactly.
Because again, somebody like Mr. David Nossi, check him out if you guys haven't mixed with TV. Yeah, he does a lot of
Yep.
stuff like analog. He'll send shit out, do this, do that. So it is kind of a maybe like a burn or whatever, but it's different workflows, obviously. But that goes back into why certain people may provide different revisions or not done. That's great. Fucking screwed. Whatever.
And it's funny because even like mixing and mastering, you know what I mean? Like even, you know, because David, the way that he works is he has a whole mixing rig, but he also has a mastering rig as well.
That dude's funny. That was crazy, bro. When he was saying in the studio, you guys
About
need
what?
you guys
Hey,
you guys
y'all
need
really
to check
need
out
to
the
tune
new
in.
the new bunker, bro.
Yeah, y'all really need to tap in.
Mr. Mike Dubinsky, David Nossi, and I be helping out there sometimes from time to time too.
We're going to have something crazy happening within the next few months. I tell you what, we got a lot of things in the works, a lot of development in the studio.
Yeah.
It's going crazy. Space is amazing.
Once we get the
vibes.
once we get the podcast room set up, we're gonna probably start doing a few podcasts. there,
Yeah,
too,
no, for sure. For sure. Y'all
we-
will
we
get
need-
to
we-
literally
we-
see the space.
We need 2 more cameras. You already have yours, to be honest.
Yeah.
That other one we could use that one, the
Yeah.
Canon. So we should probably get another one. But whatever. That's besides.
Beside the point. But
But-
y'all gotta tune in. Y'all gotta tap into the bunker. I'm telling y'all, best recording studio in the Van Nuys and the whole entire Valley location besides my
Besides
boy spot
Goose's
right
room.
here. You know what I'm saying? So if y'all aren't tapping in with my boy Goober and myself, y'all really ain't tapping in and doing this shit for real.
What other engineers in the valley are doing this?
Yeah, to be honest.
Yeah,
To
like,
be honest.
I
Not
mean,
even on no coggy shit.
We're
just
for
to be
the
honest.
we're for the people.
We're for the people. We literally are for the people. We want, at the end of the day, to
to
provide
make good music.
to make
Yeah.
good music and to provide the best results to our clients that we have, you know? And we just know for a fact that if you ain't booking with us, y'all ain't getting the best result possible at the end of the day. We're too confident in what we do. You know, we put in the time for this shit. We know what the fuck we're doing. So
Blood,
if y'all ain't
sweat, and
putting the
tears.
trust into us, then y'all ain't doing it for real.
Yeah, but we got you though. But whatever. So okay, cool. So let's say back to revisions because we went on a little tangent, but it was a beautiful tangent. But it was. But let's say you're okay, cool. So we got everything else on the prefix of revisions, but now the song was mixed and now we're on the after end right here. I need to fit in the frame, but we're on the after end of revisions. So what can you do after you get your revisions to make the process, look at this guy, to make the process a little bit better? So basically, one thing that I want to say is if you're an artist, make sure you're listening in a specific space that you're comfortable or you're used to listening to music on. So
and with something decent like a good some sort of good monitoring system.
I mean,
you know
it doesn't even
have to be perfect,
No.
but just something that you're comfortable listening to. That
Yeah, there you go.
That you normally listen to music on.
Exactly. That was my that's my straight point. Yeah, just whatever you're comfortable listening to music on or whatever you normally listen to music on, you're gonna be basically when you're listening to your mix where you normally listen to music, you're gonna have a better judgment as to okay, like this and this and that levels or whatever, and that's what engineers do, you know. Like
common
like,
reference
yeah,
point
real
at the end of the day.
real engineers, like they listen to music, a bunch of music on their monitors, so they already know how this is supposed to sound.
Or you're
and
like
this
Mike
is
Dean in
supposed to
his
sound.
Tesla.
It doesn't matter. Well, yeah,
It
but
doesn't matter, though, at the
That's
end of the
another
day.
reference point outside of the studio.
Yeah, it's a reference point. You
Outside
know,
of the studio.
have some sort of reference point of where you normally and generally listen to your songs and your music on.
So after you get your mix back, make sure you listen to it first before you make revisions, because this is another thing too that is honestly, I'm gonna just say like this, it's fucking annoying. As far as a mix
They can
engineer,
be pretty annoying.
No, it's annoying when an artist is listening to the mix that second and is like, oh, I hear this, send. Oh, I hear this, send. Oh, and this, send. And then it's like they're listening a little bit more, and then it goes to the third minute of the song or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, and this part, send. No, listen to it in multiple speakers and multiple times. Give it at least a day or two before you send any notes, because
Let it sit for a bit.
because the reason why I say this too for the artist's defense is you don't want to send all these notes and have a mixing engineer do it. Let's say the mixing engineer is right at their desk. As soon as you send it, they're like, okay, fuck it, whatever, I'm gonna send it.
Do it. Get it done.
Send it. And then they send it to you, but then you're like, oh yeah, and I also heard this. And I also heard this, and I also heard this. No, you're gonna rack up.
It happens. I've seen it. I know who you're talking about.
You're gonna rack up your revision amount to the fucking moon, and usually there's a lot of engineers too who like, I think it's typical within this space where they give 3 free revisions, and then any revision after 3 is like paid for or whatever.
That's typical. I can agree with that. I can attest to that. You know, 3 seems pretty fair. 2 seems fair even. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But just be specific on what you want to be revised.
But again, as far as them being specific, like they don't need to know that. But I think what like, because if they're not specific on certain shit, that's fine, because again, they're artists, they're not as technical. But it's just, at least take the time to really listen to it, to gather all your thoughts into one before you even send a revision list. And then I want to build off of that too. Let's say like there's multiple people involved within the production or the mixing of the song, or that they have multiple say-sos. So make sure that everybody who was involved in the song listens to the song multiple times, and then you gather all the notes. You choose one person to gather all the notes, and then report back to the engineer for those revisions, so that one person was basically tracking everybody's notes, because it's more common in bands. But let's say you were mixing, you guys may not even be in this genre of rock or whatever, but for those that are, they already know this. But let's say like if you're in a fucking band, the drummer would be like, "Oh, I want my drums up," and then the synth player was like, "Oh, can you turn the synths up?" And then the guitar player is like, "Can you turn the guitar
Everything
up?"
is fighting.
And then
This shit is fighting.
no, and then the vocalist is like, "Oh, can you turn my vocals up?"
That shit is
You get what I'm
fighting.
saying? So it's like no, and then and it's basically because everybody is giving input on
Yeah.
what needs to be mixed. Where you and like let's say the guitarist, the drum player, the synth player, the vocalist, they all had these notes because that's the parts that they're playing within the song, but they didn't even communicate within each other what they wanted the song to sound like. So that's why you
Yeah.
got to choose one person to gather up all the revisions and then communicate that.
And it's funny,
with the engineer.
Yeah, and it's funny because going to that point, I guess that's like when it comes to labels, that's normally like the A&R and the artist, mainly even the A&R. But funny enough, I'm gonna just say it. I'm gonna fucking put it on the table. I'm gonna call it out just how it fucking is, right? Just be very blunt about shit. Because that's what we do here on the Audio Alchemy Podcast.
Yes, sir.
We don't fucking bullshit. We don't beat around the bush.
We ain't no motherfucking pussies.
We talk our fucking shit. You want to know why? Because
We
no
don't
one
talk our
ain't.
shit.
Because
Nobody's doing it.
Nobody's doing
Nobody's
it.
doing it,
Nobody
I
else is
guess.
gonna say it. So at the end of the day, we're just gonna.
We
put it
gotta
out
say
there,
it, yeah.
right? So I got a homie. Right? And it's funny because I've heard. He's had a situation where one of the A&Rs from a label wanted a revision, right? Bro literally just sent the exact same file back to the A&R. And he was like, "Oh yeah, it's perfect." Point being, these labels don't know shit. These A&Rs don't know shit. Nobody knows shit. They don't really care half the time on how shit sounds. You know what I'm saying? They don't even pay attention half the fucking time. It's just at the end of the day, it's a really tricky industry that we fucking work in,
Yeah.
And it's really
You gotta know how to maneuver.
You gotta know how to maneuver. You gotta know how to navigate at the end of the day. But it's comedic. It's hilarious. You know what I'm saying?
That's
At the
what
end of the day,
makes it skits, yeah.
like people
Funny.
just don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They don't critically listen. They don't have the specific trained ears to even be able to be like, "Oh yeah, this is this." They're just like, "Oh yeah, cool," but it's the same fucking file. Point being, like people don't even know what the fuck they're talking about half the time.
Yeah, it's pretty fucked because I'm sure an artist I'm sure an artist listening to that. Like if you're an artist and you're like, "Oh, what the fuck? You just sent me the same file. Wow, this fucking engineer did me dirty." But it's I don't know, it's not even
Dirty.
like that. It's just like I don't know. It's a weird
It could be like that. It's just
It
weird.
could,
It's
yeah.
just weird. It's a tricky industry. Point being is work with somebody credible. At the end of the day, work with somebody who's credible and genuinely supports what the fuck you're doing.
Exactly. So that's why we're having this whole podcast. Hopefully, if
That's
thi-
why we're
if-
here.
if-
That's
if-
why
if
we do
this-
what the fuck we do.
If this provided value to you guys and you guys are still tuned into this
Like
point,
and subscribe.
like and subscribe, but also comment in the comments below. Comment value, and I'm gonna look at all the fucking comments who comment value, and I'm gonna make sure I give you some shit. I want to reward all the people who
Yeah.
fucking watch the entirety of the podcast.
Yeah, at the end of the day,
You know?
what we're here to do. We're here to help people, so giving
Yeah.
back ain't shit for us,
Yeah,
We'll
so-
figure out some sort of situation. So
Yeah, comment value.
see what type of value, comment even what you gain from this podcast, at the end of the day.
Yeah,
because
and
at the end of the
we'll
day,
return the favor.
Exactly.
But whatever. So cool. So building off of that too. So we're in the after the post tense of the revision.
Okay. Post tense.
I guess if that's even a thing. I'm pretty sure it is, but
So this
whatever.
is when the song. This is when you get basically at the end of the day. This is when you finally get the mix pass, right?
no, not the mix pass. Not
Okay,
the mix
so
pass.
we're
No,
not
it's-
there yet. We're not there yet.
No, we're not there. We're not,
there yet.
Yeah, this is. I think this whole podcast is gonna be before the mix pass.
Okay,
because
yeah.
it's still revisions.
Okay,
But-
yeah, that makes sense.
But just another thing too is like when you are so don't send 1,000 revisions all at once while you're listening. Make sure you're listening on multiple speakers. Make sure you gather everybody's input. Make sure you do all these other things that you keep everything in account. But then also when you are providing revisions, make sure that you provide specific timestamps where you want your revision to be made. Certain people, they'll say, "Hey, can you copy the hook to the other hook and do this?" And bro, that
I've heard that so much.
yeah,
I've heard that so much from people.
that doesn't fucking help, bro. Like literally say like, can you copy the first hook 38 seconds to a minute 26? Let's just say it's that long or whatever.
Yeah, like
And then copy it over. Just say that first, at least that first timestamp, and then copy it over to after the verse, and then just say where the verse ends at this point. Because I mean, everybody's different. Again, every artist has a specific different language that they speak. But at least provide timestamps so that way it's easier for
that
the
makes
engineer
it a lot
to.
easier.
Yes, so that way it's easier for the engineer to understand. Okay, bet I'm gonna just copy it from here, put it over here. Just say again, 36
Yeah.
seconds, a minute 26,
Be
2
specific.
minutes 47.
Don't be
You get what I'm
afraid.
saying?
Be specific on what you want. You know, at the end of the day, like if you're telling your engineer like specifically what you want to do, that just makes it easier on both ends to get the end result a lot faster and more efficient and easier for both of us.
Exactly. So then after you do that and after you provide timestamps, let's say okay, everything's all good. I want to speak a little bit more towards the engineers here.
Yeah.
One thing as far as if you're an engineer, one thing that I would say is before you make a new version for whatever song for the revision, I really want you guys to do like a save as file or save like a new different version.
Yeah.
So that way you could revert back to it because dude, this literally happened to
100%,
this happened to me
100%.
recently. Very, very recently. I did a mix and I was like, yeah, this is good. I gave it my all. I was like, yeah, this is the fucking mix. The artist was like, oh, can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do that? And I was like, all right, fuck it. Because again, I like realistically, I don't care. I have X amount of revisions. We're good. We're good. So he was like, can you do this, do that? I was like, all right, bet. I'm going to do exactly what you're fucking telling me to do. I did exactly what the artist told me to do.
Yeah.
And then the artist was like, nah, I like the other one better. Like the
That
first
shit's fucking funny. That shit happens. It's, you know, because I don't know, at the end of the day, I feel like people just don't know what they want. And then also, like, as an engineer, coming from the engineering perspective of things, you gotta also know when you're doing like too much, you know? Like you don't want to change certain things too much, so that way it throws like somebody's ear off, or they're like, "Oh no, I like this version better," you know?
Well, exactly, and that kind of goes back to demoitis too, because usually the artist will revert back to the original mix. So as an engineer, that's why it's very, very crucial for you to save different versions within your mix, because there's a lot of times where there's artists that they don't even really know what it is that they're talking about.
That's literally how it is, though, bro.
Yeah.
They don't know what the fuck they're talking about.
Yeah, and then you give them something, and then they're like, "Oh, can you do this and this and this and that?" And then you do it for them, and they're like, "Nah, look, go back." And if you're a mixing engineer, like if you're new to it, like obviously more experienced engineers, they're already doing this shit. But if you're new to it and you're like making a mix or whatever, and you're doing a revision, and you just save it over the current thing, and you're just keeping it in one project, then whenever it's time to go back to it, you're gonna be like
a headache.
Yeah, you're gonna be like, fuck.
Like, fuck, what time did I bounce this? Let me go back to my session backups and see what time I bounced this at.
Exactly.
Because at the end of the day, like, otherwise it's gonna be so difficult to figure out like what specific version of the mix that you had where they were satisfied with, you know, going back to it.
No bappity bap. So that's why we want to save different versions if you're a fucking mix engineer.
Yeah, you got to V1, V2, V3, V4.
Exactly.
And honestly,
Wait, hold on, pause. Every time that I send a mix out, and then anytime, I don't care what the fuck it is, bro. It could literally be somebody saying, "Can you turn the kick up just like a little bit, one little thing?"
0.2 dB.
That's already me. Yeah, that's already me like saving it as a different file. At least for me personally, I know other people like to organize their files by dates and the date that they do shit. But for me personally, like I don't really care. I just say version 1, version 2, version 3, version 4 because to me that's a little bit easier.
Oh, for sure to manage. Yeah, file management. Be specific. Label your files. Keep shit organized. 100%. Off topic, but it's the truth.
Yeah. So it's just so that's that thing. You get what I'm saying? And then another thing too is the tools. Like the tools used to get better revisions. Yeah. And there's some pretty good ones. So again, shout out to Mr. David Nossi for putting me on to Session Wire because that's honestly a great
Session
one.
Wire.
If you, so let's say you already listened to it on multiple speakers, you already know what it is that you want, you gathered all the notes, you did everything, you did it, this and this and this and that. And if you're an engineer and the artist already did all those things and they want to still do certain revisions, then use a software like Session Wire. Like, this isn't sponsored. This is just because I've tried it and it's pretty fucking fire. Where you could literally basically streamline your whatever DAW you're in to the artist that got the mix from you, whatever. And usually, like, if an artist has like a recording setup or somewhere where they can listen to music or their own little like
some sort of
computer
playback
setup,
system that,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
so then they can listen to that too. But even if they're like listening on their phone, they can still connect through their phone with like AirPods and all that kind of shit too, and they can still listen to and make notes or whatever. That's the beauty of Session Wire. So again, it's all about the tools of what makes the revision process a little bit easier. So again, try using something like Session Wire. If you guys are engineers and you guys haven't heard about Session Wire yet, I highly recommend you guys try it out because it's fucking fire. You literally stream it. All you have to do is download it and then you install the plugin, the Session Wire plugin, and then you just do simple routing. It's like Zoom but for audio engineers or music production, and then you're able to invite whoever was involved in the song wherever around the world, as long as you guys are all meeting at the same time, and then you can literally stream high quality audio to everybody that was involved within the song.
Session Wire, we finna tag you on this one. Y'all better tune in.
That's what I was thinking.
We fuck with y'all, Session Wire.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
You guys pretty clutch, not gonna lie.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. We're gonna tag him.
Worldwide.
And then another thing that you could do, I mean, if you guys are local, if you're local with your mixing engineer, then ask if you could do like an in-person revision setup, because that's also
yeah,
cool too.
that's cool too. To be honest, that's perfect. If you know what I'm saying, if you have a mixed version that you're pretty satisfied with, but you're like, oh, I want this, maybe this thing, reach out to your engineer, talk to him, maybe see if there's a way that y'all can meet up, arrange a time, a date where you guys can be in person, listen to the mix on the same exact system together, where you can literally tell them like, yo, hey, turn this down like 2 dB or 0.5 dB or like.
Well, they're not gonna be that technical.
You know what I'm
the
saying?
artist,
or
but they're
obviously they're not gonna be
that.
that technical. That's just my engineer talking.
Yeah.
But like, if they'll be like, turn this down just the tiniest bit, and just to the point where the artist is like, oh yeah, that's perfect. Like, just arrange it, communicate. It's all about communication at the end of the day. It's all business, and it's all about a service that we provide as engineers. So make sure that you on top of it.
Fire as fuck. Exactly. So in-person sessions are always great, and I wouldn't recommend doing revisions through text. I mean, you could do revisions through text,
just depending on how technical they are,
But just like, if you are gonna do it through text, again, make sure you listen to the full song at least like a day or two and really like write it out, okay? But if not, like, do something like on an email or like a document on your computer if you have access to your computer, etc., etc. That's like another great one too. But one thing. Look, this is one thing that I want to mention to never fucking do.
Say it.
Never fucking give me a revision on a motherfucking voice memo. Please. Please do not do that.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Because
that's stupid. That's stupid as fuck. Because you're gonna have to listen to that voice memo a million fucking times.
Let me explain why. Yeah, exactly. Because I've had artists where they've given me revisions on a voice memo, and it pisses me the fuck off because I can't look at the audio file and be like, okay, right here's where they wanted this. No, write it down, please, before you do that, because, dude, I hate this with the fucking
All right,
passion.
watch this. All right, so, hey, Goob, like, that shit sounds great, bro. That shit sounds perfect, right? But I fuck with the mix so heavy, bro. I'm super, super juiced on it. But, hey, like, there was just one part in the mix. There was just one part in the mix. I think around, I'm not too sure. I think it was around, like, 1:30-ish, like, 1:40. It could have been, like, around 2 minutes, but whatever. point being, all that time me talking, you're gonna have to go back into that a million times as an engineer. Why don't you just text it out, be specific, type it out? It's that easy.
Never fucking give it,
So
bro.
don't send a motherfucking voice memo.
At least for
unless
me
it's like 5
personally,
seconds or less. Don't send a voice memo.
Not
please.
even 5 seconds. Fuck any second, bro. I fucking hate voice memos. Don't ever give me a voice memo for a revision.
Might as well just
avoid
be
it, because if you give me a message, I'll be able to read it off the bat,
comprehend it,
and then
easy.
And then like let's say I'm not even in the studio when you send me the voice memo. I can't even go back. I literally have to play it from the beginning. But if you send me a text, and when I'm in the fucking studio, I can literally open up the text and be like, okay, they wanted this, that.
Easy.
Bro, I'm not trying to hear you ramble on your voice memos for fucking 30, 40, 50, 60 seconds.
Especially if it's like a 2-minute long voice memo. Bro, that shit is fucking annoying to have to go through. Just type that shit the fuck out. Be specific. Make it easy on both of us. You know? If you're trying to call and talk to us about the mix, great. But when it comes to revisions, make a clear set list on what we need to get done so we can do that the easiest and most efficient way possible.
For real. But honestly, I think we covered a lot of ground on this episode, and I kind of just want to conclude it because I think I spoke I think we spoke everything that we needed to speak.
Yeah,
within this
revisions.
episode.
You know, at the end of the day, what is a revision? A revision is something that needs to get fixed on a song. It's something that an artist isn't happy with, and they're like, "Yo, can you do this? Can you do this?" So that way we all get to the same destination where you get that mix pass at the end of the day. Revisions can be a pain in the ass. They can be easy as fuck. It's up to you at the end of the day to make it easy or not on both ends. So if you're an artist, even if you're an engineer, I'm a little bit lit at the end of the day.
Engineer.
But at the end of the day, just try to make it as easy and specific and be transparent on both ends. So that way we could just get the job done.
It's all about communication. And make sure, communication.
Exactly.
Just make sure you have that good communication with your engineer. Keep all these things in mind, and I promise you guys, if you keep all this stuff in mind, it's going to be better for both you, the artist, and you, the engineer.
Yeah.
You and if
we're here to tell you all that.
Yeah, and if you're an artist and you have an engineer that you work with, share this video with them. If you're a fucking engineer and you work with specific artists, share this video with them, because we need to provide everybody with the insight, with the community, with whatever it is that we're doing. We don't want anybody to be ignorant. I mean, there's a lot of ignorant people, but as far as music production goes, but fuck it, it is what it is. But
at the end of the day,
at the end of the day, look, at the end of the day, you guys are watching this. You guys are watching this, so just share it with them. And I want to, and I just want to call it wraps. But if you guys want to know a little bit more about figuring out better finances for your music, then make sure you guys check out the last podcast. I'm going to link it right here.
Budgeting as an artist. You know what I'm saying? We talk about a lot of different things about budgeting as an artist.
Make sure you guys check that out. And also don't forget to subscribe to me, Goose's Room, my boy Mikey at the Bunker Recording Studios. I'm about to drop another YouTube video. That should be out soon too.
Travis Scott vocals, man.
If you want more in-depth tutorials, if you're an engineer, you want more in-depth tutorials, check that out. But as far as that goes, we'll see you guys in the next one. So hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you guys soon.
Appreciate you guys.
Peace.
Peace.
Yeah. Take care.